itself. So I'll do like Talentless 2 as my intro for my next album that I put out, or not this album or the next album after that, but like my third or fourth album that I want to tell a story that I have experienced and things like that. So when it's about me, I would always start off every album with like Talentless 2, Talentless 3, Talentless 4, so on and so forth. And then I would do the album, tell the story that I wanted to tell. I just wanted to be a recurring theme because that's what the philosophy is built off of.
Okay. What about Hopeless?
That was literally I saw a trend happening, which was Helldivers 2, and Hopeless was the name of the beat that I got from the my producer. And I was like, this really does sound hopeless. Why don't we kind of change it and tell the story about like if you know like what Helldivers 2 is, it's just a game where you're fighting aliens basically, but it makes it really immersive where it feels like you're on the battlefield and things like that. So the story that I told in my mind is like, what if this was like a soldier's last moments on a battlefield? So I would call it hopeless. And that already fits into my list category of like talentless and so on and so forth. And the song just turned out really well. It came out just the way that I wanted it to, and everything just sounded great on it. So like that's the whole story of it is literally that. It's a made up story that I made in my mind of you can apply it to different circumstances, and if you can listen to it while you're reading a book, you can listen to it while you're playing a video game, make you feel more immersed. It's more about the feeling of hopelessness and the story that you can tell in your imagination than like me feeling hopeless per se. And that's the neat thing about being a writer is you don't have to write a story about you every single time. You can tell a story about someone else, or you can tell a story around a theme. You can tell stories with multiple layers and levels to it, which as a writer is what I'm trying to become better at, and things like that, whether it be in my skits or in my music.
So somebody out there that's hearing this that, has a passion for, let's just say music specifically, writing, performing, uh, content creating, all in this kind of genre, somebody that wants to do it, but maybe struggling or maybe not seeing results or not bringing in the revenue. Um, how do you define success in your early on? What kept you going early on?
What kept me going early on was consistency. Consistency is definitely the best thing when it comes to making content, which I'm going to change my schedule again here come May. So we're going to see how that works. I'm actually going to drop it down to 4 videos a week because that's what Instagram recommends for best growth, which I think is interesting, but I'm going to try it out. But I'm still going to make content every day. I'm just going to pre-plan content 4 or 5 days into the future. So some days I don't have to do any work and I just sit back and I go work at the studio and only work on songwriting because it frees up more decision-making skills and like creativity in my brain. But if you're not seeing results and you've been doing this for like a year and you haven't grown to at least like 10,000 followers on whatever platform you're focused on, and on TikTok, I was fortunate enough in about the first 8 months to grow to about 10,000 followers on TikTok. And so I was like, okay, like I could really do this. And then like I kept doing it the next year. I started to get better and better and better. But there's a certain point where you have to say and accept that the reason why you're not creating a following or you're not getting the views is because your content is bad. And I had to have that same conversation with myself as like, yeah, my content is bad. And I would still say like it's not the greatest now. I think it's certainly above a lot of what my competitors are putting out there when it comes to quality lives wise, because I'm a very competitive person. I played like college soccer, and I've been blessed by sports in that realm to be competitive, and I've learned how to be competitive in that way. But it it recognize that what you're doing isn't working and start comparing yourself to others of why does theirs work, but why does mine not work? And that comes with recognition of certain weaknesses. Like I did like play the violin in front of the camera, but no one watched it. And the answer is real simple is because I'm not interesting enough to watch. So like I'm not the best looking guy on the face of the planet. And that's fine. It just accept that and start saying like, okay, I'm not the best looking guy on the planet, but I'm certainly funnier than everyone else that is doing it in my space. So start leaning towards that. Recognize your weaknesses and start to change them in a way that can be positive for you. And that's why I started wearing the hat and started wearing more neutral clothes, because I want to look a little bit more neutral. It kind of like cancels out the features that don't look as good on me. But I'm also way more comfortable when I wear this and when I quote unquote like look more neutral and look my best. Because I don't that's not the point of my brand, is not to be like, look at how great I play the violin. It's like how look at the music that I'm making and look at the story that I'm telling. So recognize those weaknesses and recognize that your content is bad. And once you get over those two humps, then you'll start to create ideas on ways to neutralize those things that you've been setting that's been setting you back. And I'm still going to work on weaknesses over time. I'm still relatively new to the content space, only been doing this for about 2.5, 3 years. So everything that I could say now, I could say tomorrow completely the opposite, because I find out something new and both be 100% true. So that's what I would say.
Are you comfortable sharing any of the dollar amount stuff with, say, Spotify and streams and whatnot?
So Spotify and its streams right now are really like, because I go through DistroKid sometimes lags behind. My estimates for my current Spotify output from this one song is, I think, gonna be about $400 just from Hopeless by itself. And that's not stacking all the other things that are on top of it. So there is money to be made on Spotify, especially if you go through a good distributor. But the one thing you hear from like musicians all over the place is like, you make no money on Spotify. And if you go watch like independent artists like Connor Price and things like that, they're like, no, you can make money on Spotify. All these people who are saying you don't make money streaming are signed to labels who take 80% of the profit and give 20% to the artist. Yeah, you're not going to make anything there because the label owns everything. Like, I own all my masters, I do all this stuff, and the actual like end goal, which I thought was pretty genius, that I learned from watching a bunch of Connor Price interviews, is his wife is a genius business manager, and she's like, I just want him to make more music, because what we're going to do is we're going to sell our catalog to these record labels. Because once you start to build up enough streams and build up enough popularity, what you can do is you can sell, just outright sell the rights to the music for him. So by the time that they're 30, 35, their goal was to sell his entire catalog for $10 million to like to UMG or whatever. And there, you don't have to work again for the rest of your life. And they already are business sense enough to know that they're going to reinvest it into businesses. They're going to buy companies so they make like profit over time. And like it's just like, you got to have a business mind to the music industry and really focus on the people who have done it independent, and benefits and drawbacks to having a label and not having a label. So that's kind of the Spotify metrics and the business side of everything. I haven't like withdrawn anything from Spotify because I'm trying to let that build up and let that song just kind of ride for the rest of April, maybe halfway into May, because that's when I'll start re-releasing music again. Because I just want to watch my Spotify metrics, see what they do, what I'm doing wrong, what I'm doing right, figuring out what songs work and what don't work. And that's the nice thing about like doing content creation, is you can see like what videos, what works and what doesn't work. It's the same thing with songs. Spotify is just another like content creation platform. It's just like music exclusive. So use all the skills and strategies that you've made doing content online and apply that to what you're doing now with whatever you're doing, which is what I'm doing. People out there, you don't have to do music or whatever, but just recognize and use those skill sets interchangeably between these two passions that you're trying to do. Or if you're not trying to do passions and just trying to grow followers, then like use all your skills to the best of your benefit.
So building a following, building that audience, like Connor Price,
Mhm.
their end game was to build this catalog and then sell it off to a big company. So what do they do to be able to drive revenue and income in the meantime?
It's all Spotify. Like, I think off of their last estimates that they said in a podcast that was a year and a half ago, is that they were making $600,000 a month from Spotify alone. And that was their main source of income, because he was getting, I think, 10 million streams a month. And that sounds
Oh,
about right.
yeah.
Yeah. No, he was pulling in some major streams, and that's the benefit of being in that more like pop hip hop sub genre, that he was also doing Christian, more like Christian rap type stuff. So he didn't like have any of the tropes of like normal hip hop and rap that you see when it comes to like uh when it comes to very classical hip hop of the way that rappers settle beef and whatever. Like he doesn't do anything like that, which is really, really smart and really genius because now you've expanded your audience not just to 20, 25-year olds, but to 13-year olds and like 14-year olds. And that's the kids who he wants to reach at concerts because the parents are gonna buy those tickets to go see him because they know his music is clean. So the parents can get behind it. They can go there with the kids. The kids are super excited about it. Like the you may hate like, oh, I only have an audience of 13-year-old boys. Like you may hate that, but there are so many benefits to having that younger audience than to having an older audience that's going to buy your stuff outright. So that's kind of the genius of Connor, and that's why I really, really like studied him and see what he did and see what he didn't do. And he still makes probably 6 figures a month just from Spotify before they even sell off the catalog. And that's not including YouTube revenue that he gets in from doing all his shorts because he still makes revenue off that. That's not including ad reads that he'll put out on his Instagram like story. Like you don't even have to do like an ad read on your normal platform. You could just post a quick tweet or post a quick story. That'll work too. So that's his three main sources of income. And they're still all building it towards the massive income of when they sell off the catalog. So that's kind of the genius behind of what they're doing and what I'm trying to model myself after when it comes to being an independent in the music industry.
So how do you find more leverage or ways to be able to expand the audience or expand the reach?
Expand the audience, expand the reach. That is a good question. I think that I found my leverage when it came to when that video of my Hopeless song got 400,000 views on Instagram, which is by no means viral. When people the word viral is so overused nowadays, I'm like, you have no concept of what the word viral means. It's not very viral in the sense of like a ton of people saw it, but out of the 300,000 accounts, 200,000 accounts that it reached, because you got to count replays and things like that, 400,000 views does not mean 400,000 people watched the video. It means actually about 200,000 to 250,000 people watched your video and then rewatched it back. So that one video pulled in almost 2,000 followers the moment that it started to take off. And I was like, that is 100 times more than what I usually pull in from a video that gets 2.5 million views. Because from that 2.5 million views, I only got about 2,500, 3,000 followers versus a video
Mhm.
with 400,000 views. I got the same amount of followers. So I'm like, oh, that's where the audience is building. It is this idea of doing skit content and promoting my music because they want to see your music, but they also like your content. It's like you're making a win-win for the audience. Like you're adding value to their life. They feel like they haven't wasted 30 seconds by watching your video, and you've added even more value because now they can go listen to the music. Wow, this guy's got some good stuff. I'll give him a follow. And that's the exact mentality that they have. You got to put yourself in the consumer's shoes and be like, what value am I adding to this other than just like I made you laugh a little bit. And then the people who have initiative will go through your stuff and be like, "Oh, this guy's pretty funny. I'll give him a follow." It's that instant adding value in two places where people are like, "Okay, I can see me following this guy for a while now."
So the multi-million view video versus the one that had 400,000 views. How would you describe the difference in just structure or the video?
The structure of both videos is very similar. I had two characters. One walked into the room and said, "I want to make a song. This is what I'm going to make the song about." And the other video was like, "Oh, you play the violin. You must be really talented." It's the structure is the same thing. The structure is skit videos with two or three characters. One just happens to center more around my music and
Okay.
having a build up and saying like, okay, give me the name of a video game. We'll go Helldivers 2 because Helldivers 2 was a big at the time. Give me the name of a chord. The chord doesn't even matter. I don't even know if I resolved it on a fifth chord, but all the music nerds out there who watch my videos, they're gonna find value in that and they're gonna listen to see if that's a fifth chord. I think it was a fifth chord. I just guest. And then I said, give me a word on top of that. And the word was hopeless. And I turned that into a joke because it was tax season. And all the adults find that funny because they're like, oh, I just turned in my taxes. I feel that. But then 30 seconds later, or like 3 seconds later, I said the joke, like, what was it? Oh, I just had 30 vanilla milligrams of this Adderall, and let me tell you, I'm feeling pretty intelligent right now. Now, the adults won't get that. That'll go right over the adult's head. But all the kids who are on TikTok are going to be like, I know that joke. And so what I'm doing is I'm sprinkling a few jokes in there every 10, 15 seconds to keep people interested so that eventually this payoff that I've set up of I want to make it sound like Helldivers 2 resolve on a fifth chord and the song be hopeless be granted by the end of the video by listening to my music. So I've added value in your life by not just telling you a story from the very beginning because you want to see how the story happens. I've added humor in it that both people can enjoy. And I've also set up this payoff of the music that you want to hear at the very end. And I think that's why the video did so well. And I'm going to use that for a lot of my videos going forward. I've also experimented with like setting up about 10 to 14 seconds of introduction, having you listen to the music, and then having a payoff at the very end of the video that ties back into the beginning because then it feels like I didn't force the music on you. The music just kind of naturally occurred and you liked it. So I've found some success in that. But again, it's just all about perfecting the formula and thinking about retention and where the watch time is like landing. Because some people want to listen to the music till the very end, some people don't. And it's just about figuring out that balance between what works and what doesn't work, what keeps the audience attention and what doesn't.
Okay. Okay. Um, I know we're running out of time here. Last question for you. Do you want to hint at the next stuff that's coming?
I've got 3 projects planned right now. So the next project that I'm doing is codenamed Colors. The main question of the project is what do colors sound like? So I'm excited about that one. The next one I have is a very more thoughtful project, and I'm going to call it the code name for that one is Words. And there's this amazing like trend that was happening on TikTok about 2 years ago that uh um words what was it called? It's like obscure words that describe complex emotions or things like that. And so that's another really good one to have like feeling and put that in music, and then I can incorporate interesting things that I like from TikTok into my own music. And then my third project on top of that is going to be a little crowd favorite. I promised them I would come back to it. I'm going to be doing another Devil Went Down to Georgia video. I can't tell you what I'm doing because I have it almost done. I have it done. I have like the song written. I just don't have it recorded yet because I don't have a good enough discography. So because when this does go for the Devil Went Down to Georgia, it's gonna go, and people are gonna get mad at it. People are gonna think it's stupid. People are gonna think it's great. People are gonna think it's hilarious. Like it's gonna cause a lot of stirring in the pot. But I didn't want to release it too early because I wanted to build up my discography first and be like, oh, he does make actual music, not just meme songs 24/7. And then after that, who knows? I'm planning 3 projects right now. So that's the current plan for what I'm doing going forward.
Okay, let's say that someone comes to you in the future and says, "Okay, you've got this big audience, come perform live."
So I would do a lot of requirements of I would need a team, I would need projectors, I would need pretty big production value and things like that. If someone were willing to produce that and be like, here's $20,000, make your own setup on your own stage, I'd be like, great. If someone is like, hey, come perform for me live, and they're like, I'll give you $500, I'm like, you're out of your mind. That
Right.
ain't happening. Like that's just not happening. And I've been in like the entertainment industry since I was really little because my parents were magicians and things like that. So we've traveled around. I know the small gig space, and I think that the value of my music that I'm trying to put out there is best suited for like medium-sized gigs, like medium-sized audiences where I can add some pretty good production value so they feel like they get something out of the show and I feel like I'm putting on a good show at the same time. So it would require a team, but hey, if a producer wants to say like to a year from now or 8 months from now, hey, you have some really good music, let's go on tour, and it would be a long conversation. But yeah, I'd absolutely do it.
But different than someone just pulling out a guitar and playing some
Oh yeah,
songs, right? Because you get the
oh yeah,
gist of it with just the guitar. You need some help. You need some people to be able
yeah,
to make this stuff happen.
correct, correct, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So colors,
Hmm.
timeline, June,
Oh no, May. It's gonna happen May.
May.
So
Okay.
I'm literally gonna go record a song till about 2 a.m. tonight, and that's gonna be my first one in this album. Then that's got to get uploaded to DistroKid by next Monday in order for it to get out on my timeline that I want it to get out. So I will record this one. Next week, I'll record the next song after that, start dabbling in the third song. But I have a plan, but at the same time, the audience is choosing the song that comes out next. So there's a certain amount of planning, there's a certain amount of like creativity. I have to kind of let the audience pick what song I'm doing next. But I think the rough week for me is going to be May 12th, that entire week, because I have a concert on May 12th that I'm going to. I've been planning this concert for 9 months. I'm super excited about it. I'm going to go see NF and maybe do a couple other things. Then 2 days later, I'm going to Chicago, working with Kanye's label of making a bunch of sample packs for producers and things like that, with like 5, 6 producers from like Toronto and New York and California. We're all meeting in Chicago, and I get to go bump shoulders with some actual like executives in the music industry and talk and ask about managers and just like go up there and learn. That's the main point of me going up there. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about. But we'll figure it
Okay.
all out. That's
Okay. I got to ask you this too. This is taking longer. I'm sorry. This is probably the longest one in
okay.
this series, but no. So I'm in the finance world, right? So like I talk to people who want to be able to build assets, generate passive income to be able to retire from their job. And real estate's one example of how people have done that. So you're 22. So what are your thoughts, or do you ask these questions of, okay, what do I need to be able to do to be able to quit your daytime job times two? Because now you have two jobs.
Well, yeah, that's the exact question that I keep asking myself. And the answer that I'm always kind of coming back to is this like Connor Price style that of like content that they're pushing towards. If I did ever get a record label, like I would seriously consider it because record labels aren't just like, here's a $5 million loan you have to pay us back through like what you're doing and all the music and revenue that you make, because that's how record labels work. But there's like you have access to a lot of like the higher ups at Spotify, and people know people, and people who want to work with high level people in the music industry know that. Like there are different levels to the music industry. There are really high independent level artists like Connor Price who have massive respect from a lot of people in the music industry, but he's just like, I don't want to work with a label. And to a certain extent, that label's not, to a certain extent, that label's going to be like, we're not going to work with him. We're not really going to let him into that inner circle up here at the very top. And then there's people who are at the very top, like Drake, 21 Savage, all those people, they're at the very top of the music industry because they signed those contracts. And like, no, the knowledge that I know that that's kind of the space that I'm already like climbing towards, and that's like the people who I want to work with and the people who I want to talk to. It's about a game. You got to know the game that they're playing. You got to know the game that I'm playing, and so I don't really know. The answer to that question is it would be great by the time that I'm 35, I have 120 songs out on Spotify, and it's worth $5 million. I sell it to a record label for $6 million, and then like I retire when I'm 35, which that would be great. It's like the ultimate dream, which is the reason why I'm just sitting in my room working so much by myself now, because that's what we're building towards. So and when you're in like real estate or finance or things like that, I would say that have that similar idea of like you're constantly building towards something during your 20s, in your 30s. Like it's never too late to start something. Like I've seen people in the music industry who are 45 and they blow up the next day because something happens. Like you never know. And so don't let your age make an excuse for you not to try something that you're passionate about, not to try a business idea. Just try it. The worst case scenario is that it doesn't work out, and then you're back to square one. So, oh well. Yeah, worst case scenario is that it doesn't. You learned something from it.
I love that you said that. 40 years old, it's never too late. And kind of going back to the, I use the word shitty content. Like I started my journey of posting content in July 12th of 2022 and didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I was going to just keep on going and not stop. And, kids and job, and there's just only so much time in the day. So I was so focused on just the process, just getting it out there, not so much the quality of it, but just I didn't want to stop the process. I didn't want to let that dream die and just keep on going, because at some point in time, I was going to free up more time to be able to put more time into it, which has gotten me to here to have conversations with somebody like yourself. And if I would have stopped, I wouldn't be here,
Right.
and that consistency, that you talked about. 25%. Are you saving 25% of your income?
I am. Yeah. My parents have always like had me really lean towards like the Dave Ramsey style. I don't have any credit cards. I don't have any debt. Praise the Lord. Like they helped me get through college. I'm still doing the masters right now. And as long as I like stay in the masters, they're like, we'll help you pay for it. And I'm like, okay, great. So am I doing better than probably 80% of everyone else out there who's my age? Yes. Do I feel like I'm penny pinching a little bit? But that's just who they raised me to be. Focus on finances, be wise with your income, and like it will come. Like it will all come. Money comes, money goes. The Lord will giveth, Lord will taketh away. That's another like thing about me, is that I'm pretty strong in my faith and my Christian beliefs that Lord will provide. He will take care of me. He won't ever let me go hungry. And if he does, like that will come back, and there are so many things I can get into about theology, but that's one of my thoughts as well, is like it will come. Just stay in that grind. You'll figure it out.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for making time and sharing some of the insights and backdrop and storylines, and can't wait to see more to come. And so if you've gotten this far in the interview, check out the Violin Guy and all his platforms, and Spotify, Apple Music. Get going.
Go listen to music. Go listen to my music, please.
That's right. Do it right now.
Please go do it. Even if it's not your thing, you might like it. I don't know.
I mean, that's the reason why this interview catch up happened, because I heard like, oh shit, this is rocking. Okay, let's do it. So no, I appreciate it, and we'll stay in touch and keep it rocking, man.
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy to be here. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care.